Hi there, welcome back to the Mindset Check podcast. I'm your host, Misha McKittrick. This is a podcast where we believe that as you take time for a mindset check, you have more power than you think you do. And where we also believe that through sound, we can access healing in a way that can break through the barriers of the mind. I'm so excited to bring today's episode to you. We have a guest. His name's Michael Joly. You guys will be delighted to hear about him and about what he can lend in the space of healing through sound. Michael Joly is the founder of Solu and the maker of the Now Tone Therapy sound meditation device. I'm so pumped to introduce you as my audience to this device. This is a device that I provide to all of my clients who join my coaching programs. I feel pretty passionate about this product. So Michael, the product that he created are they're like little mini speakers that you can hold in your hand, and they imitate the sound of singing bowls. If you've ever had an experience in yoga or gone to like a sound bath or something like that, they sound a lot like that. We will get a taste of what they sound like today. Right now you are hearing a sample of what the speakers sound like behind my words. At the end of today's podcast, I'll play for you a full session of what the speakers sound like, and you can just sit and breathe for a moment with these speakers, with these sounds, so you can have a little sample or a taste of what it's like. And these speakers, they also vibrate when you're holding them in your hands. They create this grounding experience. They're fantastic. I love them. They only run for 3 minutes. I'm going to tell you more about them today. If these speakers, after listening to, their function and what they provide today, feel like something that you want to be a part of your life, I will make sure that you have a link in the show notes today. And if you use the code MESHA, MESHA, you get 10% off your purchase. Okay, so before we really dive into today's episode, I want to go over where we're at, especially for people who are not listening, on the regular. I want to give them a little background as to what's happening in season 1. In season 1, we are diving into my journal from when I was 15 and pregnant. And during this time in my life, I was experiencing a rocky relationship, and I had a little girl who passed away. I am finding the truth out about this man and a lot of things that he's involved with that are a little bit shady, in my opinion. And just last week, we dove into the truth about how Taylor passed away, my little girl. And it's something that I don't ever desire to share out of context. It's very big. It's very big. And so if you want that context, then go listen to the last episode that we just did that was in reference to forgiveness, called Bitter or Better. And if you are just joining us for the first time today, I am so glad that you're with us. Let's jump in. June 14th, 1995. Hello, I'm at work and I'm thinking of cutting my hair very short. Last weekend we went to Lake Mead with Gina and Paul, Saturday night, and we stayed until Sunday. It was fun. And the one day felt like 3. We could not go earlier because I had to be at Mia's open house. Her wedding turned out wonderful. It was beautiful. Ashley has stayed with Jesse and I, and we were so happy to see her. But she has to go home today. 2 days ago, Jesse bought a rose and a card for me. I loved it. He is so sweet. Last Friday, we toilet papered and saran wrapped our team leader's car while I was at a bridal shower, and now he thinks he's going to get us back. Ha ha. Well, Jesse and I are doing great, except for all of our bills. I'm very stressed out over them. We don't even have insurance on the Pathfinder, and that's crazy. One other small detail. Jesse has not quit smoking. He keeps saying he has until September because he wants to get married in the temple on our 3rd anniversary. But I have a feeling it might take him longer than that. I'm also very stressed because it means a lot to me and it's my ultimate goal. What do I do? This means so much to me. And I think it would mean a lot to Jesse, especially to be still to Taylor. I need to relax. We really need counseling to help with our problems. I think it's really interesting that in the end of that entry, I acknowledged that we need counseling. Like there was a part of me that knew we needed to process things. And if you remember, I was part of a group, like a bereavement group, and I had been attending that. But I can go back in time and even remember that I knew I needed counseling. I knew I needed to process things, but I didn't know where to go. Like I didn't know phone calls to make. I had no idea how much it cost. I mean, it just felt so like out of reach for me. And I didn't know for sure what I know now about the access that we have to processing even on our own. The things that we can do on our own, the resources we have, the books, the knowledge that's out there, the ability that we have to process things. You know, one of the episodes that we did was called A Process to Process back when we were working through grief. And there are so many layers to processing. There is so much out there that's available for us to be able to bring the gift of moving through, of accepting and loving all of the things that, you know, we experience, with things that we go through in our life that feel so big and heavy. They feel sometimes like we can get ourselves into a space of thinking like, there's no way I can recover from this. And I hope that by me sharing with you the level of what I shared with you in our last episode, that you understand that whatever happens in your life is okay. If it's your fault, if it's someone else's fault, like we can find a space where we can process it, where we can make sense of it, and where we can figure it out. And my goal for this podcast, one of them, is to help you know the resources that you have, to help you know the information that you need to process life, and to help you have the resources that you need to know where to reach for these things. And one of the things that I really wanted to bring to you today, I mentioned that we have a guest, and I'm excited to drop into the interview that I had with him. And all of it is around really the idea that sound can bring a space that's safe and healing. It can bring space to you to heal things in your life that you don't have to talk about. You don't have to even think through them. Sometimes sound can transcend all of those things, the thinking patterns that we have, and help the wounds of the past heal. And so especially if you feel fearful or if you feel afraid to confront some of the things that you might have or that you don't know that you have, or all of it's okay. All of it's okay. And you can come to a space where you can remind yourself of what you're currently surrounded with, and then drop into sound, and sound can have and work its special gift in healing. And that's what we're here to talk about with Michael today. Because I believe that both Jesse and I, at this point, you guys know from that last episode that there were some really heavy things that I blocked out. That my brain said, nuh-uh, not today. And then when I was in a safer space to be able to process and work through them, all of it came up. And I know for sure that Jesse had so many things. And I often think if he could have processed them, if he could have even said them out loud, or had a source or a way to process them without talking about them, how healing that would have been for him. So let's drop in and talk with Michael about how it works, how healing through sound works. I'm excited to share the interview with you. Welcome, Michael. I want to start just by dropping in and asking you questions about sound and about how, because one of the things that I think is so many times we process, or I would say we go through life without knowing we need to process.
Mm-hmm.
And in the circumstance of what's happening right now, how I forgot for a couple of years what was happening.
Mm-hmm.
I may not have even known that there was something for me to heal.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, sure.
And so I want to explore all the facets of sound and how it heals, and how there's times where we don't know we need to be healed,
Mm-hmm.
but sound can still clear like those blockages that we've set up to sort of protect us.
Got it. One thing I first heard was sometimes we don't know that we have something to process.
Yeah.
Sound is really good this way. Because you can sit and notice, pay attention intentionally, pay attention particularly attentively as well. And sound gives us something to use a sense to land on that has a tendency to, if we're truly engaged, I'll give you an example of this later, but or maybe in a minute, that if you're really listening with intention, if you're really attentively listening, you cannot be thinking at the same time. It's just not possible. We're set up to sequentially observe. So deep, attentive, intentional listening stills the mind and creates space. And then when you create space, what it is that wants to be known, observed, eventually healed, or a journey towards healing, that can be noticed.
Mm-hmm.
It's in audio engineering terms, we would say it's a signal to noise issue. That by stilling the mind, we've reduced the noise or the chatter. And when you have something traumatic happen in your life, the mind wants to replay the scenes, the dialogue of that trauma, the dramatic moments. Try to undo it. What if I had? What if I hadn't? What if she had not? All this narrative drama. Well, by bringing intentional, attentive listening, and it can be anywhere you are, there's always sound going on around you. You'd have to be in what we call an anechoic chamber. It's basically a acoustically perfect room that has no reflection. Sound doesn't get in, it doesn't bounce around. But short of that, there's always something to listen to. Mm-hmm. Even if it's your own. Like I've had tinnitus for years and years and years from the exposure to loud sound, and it's become more like a friend. People talk about being tinnitus sufferers. I have never said that I suffer from tinnitus. Mm-hmm. It's another kind of teacher friend from me, and it came particularly in the domain that that I'm here to be involved with.
Yeah.
Listening.
Yeah.
So,
interesting.
So I always have my tinnitus to listen to, but other people will always have
your breath or
your breath is a good one. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, because I was going to say, even if you then walk into a room that's void of sound, you are sound.
Yeah. So this is one way And then we can talk about healing in a moment about what we mean by that, or what I think sound addresses. So sound is good. Sound and listening together, of course, is good for creating that gap in which consciousness is, but drama is not.
Mm.
And then for healing.
Can we pause? Can we pause on that for a minute?
Oh, yeah.
So I think that that's interesting, because I think that many people have things that maybe they do know they need to process it, and so then they're afraid of sitting with themselves.
Oh, yeah.
And so as you're saying that the drama might clear, and that there's a lot of generosity in sound, and that's why it's like healing feels good.
Yeah. And that's a really interesting observation, that speaking about the discomfort. Okay, so once then awareness of something. First, we were saying that we're initially not aware, that we need that we know that there's something that needs to be processed and healed. So sound is an opening to a way to do that, and then now we're faced with discomfort. That's a really brilliant sequence,
and maybe deliberate avoidance.
Yeah. Now, one of the things I can speak to is in the work that I've been doing recently, there's ways to, there are sounds that you can listen to that are comforting, that are true, absolutely true. And I could demonstrate what truth is. Truth is real truth with a capital T. There's no equivocation. So when you hear, it's possible to hear something that's true. It's possible to hear something that's organized and not chaotic. It's possible to hear things that convey intelligence, a loving intelligence. And when these things are experienced orally, truth, comfort, safety, order, that aspect of us which recognizes those qualities as being permanent parts of ourselves comes into resonance with what we're hearing. So specifically, my company has this, for the easiest way to describe it is a meditation hardware product or a meditation software service. And these products and services produce bell-like sounds that are random but organized on a harmonic series. Some people recognize a similarity to Tibetan singing bowls. That's a pretty good reference. Bird songs are true. Birds don't lie when they sing their songs. If you sit by a fountain, or you sit by a brook and flowing water, that's a kind of a truth. That's not manipulated. That's not false. So it's possible for an individual person to find sounds that are comforting and true to them, and feel safe and organized. Because I'm a sound recordist, and I've been listening for a long time, my earliest memories are sound memories. And I frequently go back to them, or versions of them, to re-resonate with them. Recently I got a pressure cooker. I don't know if younger listeners may not know what a pressure cooker is, but basically it's a pot. It's a big pot with a lid that fits tightly, and there's a seal underneath the lid, and you put your food that you want to cook, and you bring it up to temperature. It builds up to 15 pounds per square inch pressure. And there's a pressure release valve on the top of this pressure cooker, which is a heavy metal disc that just sits on top of a little spigot. And the steam is coming out of the spigot, and the metal relief valve is calibrated, sits on top, and it makes this metallic hissing. It's a combination of Well, for me, this is an exceptionally comforting sound because when I was very young, 5, 6 years old, and we would go to visit my great aunts, and my aunt Yvonne had always had a large garden, French Canadian up in Connecticut, where I grew up, and she always had a large garden. She always had a ton of string beans, which take a long time to cook, right? String beans, I like to eat them raw, but I love them, done the Lebanese style, which is cooked down to they're wilted. I love that too with tomatoes. But whatever it was, it seemed like every time we visited there was a pressure cooker going, rattling and sizzling like that. And so you had all this like immense maternal energy, the garden, the machine doing the processing, and all in that one sound. I get all of that. I get all of this safety, connection, nurturing, nourishment in that sound.
Yeah, as you said that, I got my grandfather and my grandmother's house and their garden and the pressure cooker and all the stories that I have behind that. And the warmth. The warmth. And like you said, the comfort,
Yeah. Yeah.
So it's interesting that sound can do that. Sound can bring us to places. And I really appreciate how much you notice sound and how much that can evoke in us the noticing of sound and how that makes us feel.
Yeah, there's and that's not something that I put in that. That's like how the world is. That's like source. That's how source made it. Source made it so that when I get this experience, you have a resonant experience with it because it's so universal. I mean, to the human, right? We're talking about fire and heat and warmth and water turned into steam. And I love that the water is going through a transmutation into steam. It's a state change, and we're always going through state changes. Hopefully, right? On our journeys, we're starting at some vibrational level, we're starting at some awareness level, and then the fire gets put under our butts, and we get sizzled up into another, like it or not, vibratory state.
Right. And one that we can alter or affect if we want to consciously make those choices.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. We always have choice, right? Yeah.
Yeah. Because our response to what's happening in life greatly alters the way that we experience life.
Absolutely.
Right? And our understanding, the way we think of it.
Yeah. So it's good to start with sound, since we're talking about sounds, and sounds is a way of a doorway to healing. It's good to find sounds that are personally resonant with you, that you can go back to. For me, pressure cooker. I have a big collection of cotton linen shirts that I love to iron with a steam iron. It's another. Yeah. So, your listeners can search their own memories. You can even revisit sounds in your mind. This is a beautiful thing, right? It doesn't even have to be in the room with you.
Yeah, that's really cool because as you're saying that, I'm thinking of how forest sounds feel to me and my experiences and memories of forests, right? And as we're talking, if I'm not hearing the sound, but I'm thinking of the sound and what that brings.
Yeah, it's almost like the energy, the total gestalt of that sound being in the forest. It's multiple sounds, of course, but we're just calling it one sound, forest sound.
Yeah.
And then there's like a total energetic field.
Mm-hmm.
And then we can, through some wonderful facility that we don't understand, have connected with the memory of it and feel that feeling.
Mm-hmm.
You know, for me, I love the sound. There's so many, but for me, water is really important. We've been talking about it. You know, the beach, waves, really important. I love the sound of being a couple hundred yards away on an open beach because there's no reflected sound. You know, we're not in a room anymore. We're outside and there's no reflected sound. That's a very open, spacious environment. And the sound of young voices, kids playing, that kind of screaming, that it's like everywhere. Every kid that goes to the beach wants to go to the water and, you know, tempt the waves to take them down. And there's the screaming of glee, but particularly, you know, when it's heard from a couple of hundred yards away in the top end, you know, because sound, the high frequencies of sound are attenuated. That is, they're turned down by the air. They're absorbed by the air, and the high frequencies are absorbed first. So it takes the edge off of the screaming that I mean, no one wants to have you know how those 5-year-old girls can scream?
Yeah. And you're right. It's different if it's in the house or at the beach. That's different.
Yeah. So that's just another one. I can kind of like just energetically feel that feeling of that sound. So we've talked about sound can still the mind to allow something to come in, and what that something that can come in is an awareness of that which wants to be seen or heard or processed, and sound can help with the processing. By bringing some comfort and security, the base level of the Maslowian pyramid, right? The safety, security, survival, all of that comfort coming up higher, all the way up into actualization. Actually,
I like the idea of something behind that. When we're tuning into a certain frequency, that maybe there's a feeling inside of that frequency. And we need to break this down for my listeners because I'm not sure that they know what we're talking about when we say that. But if there's a sound and there's a feeling inside of a frequency, like a vibration, like, for example, if we are dealing with 528, which is love frequency, right?
Some people say, yeah.
Right. Everybody interprets frequencies differently.
Yeah, right.
But if that's what we're tuning into, and then something does come up or come to our attention, then it feels like it could be said that we are exposing ourselves to a space that's safe to be able to handle that memory, that experience, that hard that comes up.
Yeah.
So it's creating something different, a different space, so that we can do that.
Yeah, right.
It's very interesting.
Yeah, it's either creating another space, or it's helping us remember our ability to accept and process. You know, we're talking about, you know, we're innately perfect, right? But we've forgotten that.
Yeah. You know, whenever I struggle the most, I feel like what is really happening is I'm forgetting who I am.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And it would be better to forget the labels and forget the dialogue and forget the stories. And then through sound can help us to do that. And then what is left? The I am, the particular flavor of I am that we each are.
Yeah.
With its capabilities and knowing, health. So this is healing. Sometimes, you know, people say, "Oh, well, can I heal my broken arm?" I don't know. I haven't seen that done yet with sound.
Maybe it depends on who you talk to.
Yeah. Can I heal my broken heart? Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I think that there's something inside of this with the research and the things that I've been exposed to about frequencies healing us or making sense of the chaos and
Yeah.
exploring the ideas of the way that maybe if we can kind of talk about how our bodies are 70% water, and if vibrations move through the water in the body and they are organized then into different patterns,
Yeah.
so to say, that there's better channels for healing.
Yeah. I'm of the opinion, and my work has been more to do with the relationship between frequencies than the absolute individual frequency, singular. So I will never say anything like 528 vibrations per second. Sometimes it's called cycles per second. Sometimes it's called hertz. It's the technical term, 528. It just means that something is moving back and forth at 528 times per second. And if that happens with air molecules, we hear that as a particular pitch. It's a C, a middle C. One type of middle C, one tuning of middle C. So, people are curious, and your listeners will go on the internet and do searches about, well, what frequency do I need for this? It's like, what vitamin do I need for such and such? I would encourage people to think about relationships between frequencies. And that's like one. It's like a layer removed. It's like from saying this one thing, this one frequency can be something. And here's why. When I said my work is more focused on relationships, and this is where it crosses over into the human dimension, that we're here to be in relationship with each other and the world and things and objects and animals and ideas, and it's relationship. Now, there's something that naturally occurs in the world, and Source figured this out. I love how Source, on a really good day, just said, I want to make something called the harmonic series. And the harmonic series is simply the sequence of numbers 1, 2, 3. And it continues 4, 5, 6, but we can just leave it at 1, 2, 3, because if we look at the relationships between just that numerical series, we can learn a lot about relationships and how hearing those intervals, that is, hearing the relationships between those particular tones, can help us fall into resonance with them and remake or relearn or rehear order in our life. And what we're talking about is, removing the dis from ease, revealing ease from dis-ease.
I love that.
So how this happens? And the harmonic series is something that just occurs. It occurs naturally. You blow across a bottle. If you strike a stretched string, if you sing a note, multiple tones are produced, and the tones within those sounds have what we would say a harmonic relationship. That is, there's a fundamental tone, the lowest tone, and then there's also an octave, which is a sound that is moving twice as fast. It's the difference typically between a male and a female voice. It's also in the first two notes of Somewhere Over the Rainbow. I'm not a singer, but I'll do it for you. So it's somewhere. That's an octave right there. And the octave, that's a 2-to-1 relationship in terms of frequencies. So those are the 1 and 2 are the first 2 terms in the harmonic series, and we can consider the harmonic series building blocks of matter and building blocks of life. 1-to-1 is a unison, 2 people singing the same note at the same time.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, 2-to-1, the octave. One is moving twice as fast as the other. And then 3-to-2, the relationship of 3-to-2 in musical terms, we call that a perfect fifth. It would be the distance between a C and a G on a piano keyboard. In decimal terms, it's 1.5 times 1. Now, these 3 terms, with just these 3 terms and the relationships between them, the relationship between 1-to-1, the relationship between 2-to-1, and the relationship between 3-to-2, with that you can build scales. It's really the origin of scales. And when you hear this, when the human hears sounds where these intervals, an interval is a musical term for the distance between one pitch and the next pitch. We call that an interval. It's a vertical distance, not a temporal distance. Temporal distance would be melodic. It's one sound followed by another sound in time forms a melody. One sound stacked at the same time vertically forms an interval. So when the human brain hears the unison, it says, oh, wow, that's 2 things that are separate but are the same. It's a beautiful moment. And a wonderful, wonderful example of this. If for the baby boomers amongst us, at the beginning of the Beatles, I Feel Fine. Paul McCartney has his bass in his hand, Hofner hollow Beatle bass, now called. John Lennon has placed his Gibson E160 acoustic guitar leaned up against his amplifier. It's an acoustic guitar with a pickup in it. He's leaned it up against his amplifier. McCartney plucks a note on his bass. Boom. And then the next thing you hear is John Lennon's, the same note playing on Lennon's acoustic guitar all by itself because it's resonating with what McCartney did. It's that one sound. I recommend, go on YouTube, listen to I Feel Fine, the first 5 seconds. Boom. In that one sound, that unison sound, we get the entire relationship of Paul McCartney and John Lennon together. Coming together as one monster consciousness to create everything that they did. That's all in the unison.
Yeah. And that is something that I talked about on another episode about resonance.
Yeah.
And being in tune. What are you tuning into? And the way that we vibrate with something that we are responding when we're tuned in, and we attract things into our life based on how we are tuned.
Yeah. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. So it's good to know. It's good to be aware of what your own, you could say what your own tone is, what your own frequency is. This is what lights us up.
Right.
Yeah.
And I think with your speakers, I think I've read different things that say that they help us to tune our bodies, essentially.
I think so. Yeah. I think people find within them, because they contain, the speakers that you're talking about have harmonic relationships between the tones that you're hearing. There's a lot of 1-to-1 in there. There's a lot of 2-to-1, the octave somewhere. And then there's a lot of the perfect fifth. These are very, very stable, universal relationships. We can think of it as like, the Buddhist concept of right relationship. And these are right relationships in sound that are abstract, that are not tied up in language, defining the relationship. A relationship between anything, any person, and relationship between a person and the world. And so this is how being aware of the harmonic series, playing a single note on any instrument, you could do wonderful sound healing work if you sat with a guitar, a ukulele, anything, any inexpensive stringed instrument. Don't even worry about learning how to play it, how to make melodies, how to make chord forms. Take one string and pluck it and listen to it, because it's not just one tone. It's not one frequency. It's a bunch of relationships that are coming across, and they are perfectly in order to themselves. So there's a lot to be said for simplicity here, that if you give yourself the space to just listen to one note, could be a piano, could be a flute, could be a ukulele, it doesn't matter, anything that produces pitch sound, and repeat that. A lot of value in repetition. Right? To learn something, we have to repeat, right? We have practice makes progress, not perfect progress. And so within that one sound, that one plucked or blown sound, is a harmonic structure that was placed there by source on a good day. And then when you hear it, you're like hearing source's good day.
And you're like reattuning to like your whole being, which is why it makes sense to me that sound can make chaos out of healing. I mean, it makes sense of chaos.
Yes,
inside,
right.
and then heal us. I have this memory that popped up as an example, and I remember it was Christmas time, like maybe last year or the year before, and I was kind of feeling that overwhelmed feeling, like there's so many things to do, and I'm overwhelmed that there's a lot going on.
Yeah.
And I remember sitting with my middle son and being like, but I have this and this and this and he just looked at me and he goes, Mom, then let's handle it. I'll go to the store for you. And then you can do, and then this, and because we lined it all out and we found sort of a pattern that would iron everything out. That's how I think of what happens, like with our own, inside of our own cells in our body. When we're doing this, we're literally sitting and saying, there's a lot of energy bouncing around sometimes inside of us when we are avoiding dropping into healing, or when we're, not healed and maybe we don't know it. Or honestly, it can be like really big events, that we're talking about when we talk about that. But it can also be the simple things of life that present themselves. And sometimes it feels like more than it is, because there's so much chaos in our cells and energy bouncing around, that all we need to do is bring it back into alignment.
And we don't take the time. It doesn't take much time, but having the awareness and the intention to take just one breath. If we can take one breath and then settle from there, then we've got a chance to then go on from that point of having that one breath. And as you pointed out earlier, you take that breath and not only take a conscious breath, but bring your consciousness to the sound of that breath as well.
Yeah, it's beautiful. And I want to talk about time for a minute, because these speakers that that are your mainstream product.
Yeah, you notice they're time benders.
Well, yes, they are time benders. Essentially, what we mean when we say that is that somehow it slows time or stops time or
Yeah.
gives us a different reality of time,
Mm-hmm.
and really that's
Yeah.
all inside of us and our internal
Yeah.
patience and what we're creating there.
Yeah.
But these speakers essentially are very simple, and you turn them on and you hear these sounds that your body then resonates with all of these different frequencies that are happening.
Mm-hmm.
And it happens for a period of 3 minutes ish.
Mm-hmm.
And then all of a sudden, you sort of feel restored,
Mm-hmm.
put back together, and it's amazing. And so what I want to ask is, what is the background of 3 minutes?
Let's see. We settled on 3 minutes. It's between 3 minutes and 20 seconds, 3 minutes 40 sometimes.
Mm-hmm.
All of the sounds that are in these speakers, it's called N.O.W. Tone Therapy System. All those sounds were recorded. I recorded those sounds on real world instruments that I had tuned to a particular reference tuning. They're kind of like mallet instruments. So when you listen, you can hear like the striking of a mallet. You can hear the strike of the mallet on the tine, the metal portion. And it rings. And these were improvisational performances while I was in a no thought state of mind. So at the time that I was doing this work, these sounds were recorded 5 years ago. 2017, yeah, right, 5 years ago now. At that time, I could sustain, my meditative practice was at a point where I could just, if I was doing something like that, playing an instrument and focusing on playing the instrument or instruments, plural, I could sustain no thought awareness for about 3 minutes, 4 minutes, something like that. So I would do these improvisational performances and make a recording of them. And then I would immediately listen to the recording back. And I would also play back in my mind where I had been for the past 3-4 minutes. And if I remembered or if I recognized that I was thinking, a thought had entered, I lost focus, I would immediately discard that take and then make another recording. Mm. So I built up a large library of these recordings solely based on the fact that I could sustain no thought, an intentional no thought state of mind for 3 to 4 minutes. That's why it's that duration. Mm-hmm. And as it turns out, that's the sort of like a classic length of a pop song. And people have some experience with audio events of that duration. Mm-hmm. Yeah. There's like a long history of the pop song being, we call it the 3-minute pop song. So it's not unfamiliar to bring some degree of focus to 3 minutes. Uh-huh. And we felt like, okay, so a lot of non-meditators are going to discover this thing, and it's really like an awakening device. And by that, I simply mean that when you still the mind enough to be aware that you are aware, that your thoughts are not you, you are not your thoughts, that you are the consciousness behind thoughts. These are new concepts to a lot of people, right? Mm-hmm. So this is why we can say that. A device like this or a meditative practice can be an opening or awakening to a new way of being aware that many people hadn't experienced before. So 3 minutes approximately is something that a lot of people can sustain. They can find the time in their day for this particular type of self-care. I'm going to have my tone time, or you could just do it whatever you want to listen to, but be intentional about it and set some practice duration. So 3 minutes is something that people can find the time for, and they're likely to do it
Yeah.
knowing that, and then we know from repetition, the value of repetition, that if you can, it's easy to sustain this, and it's life-changing, absolutely life-changing.
I 1000% agree. And I'll tell you a little bit of the background with me and the speakers, because I have been an experienced meditator before finding these speakers.
Yeah.
And I know what it means to drop into heart coherence or different feelings inside of your body. And there's something about these speakers that can get me into that state very quickly. And it's very beautiful. And I also really, really think and believe, which is why I'm using these speakers in my coaching and with my clients, because I believe that we need to be introduced to meditation as a form of restructuring our, going within and restructuring and making sure, like you touched on, that we realize that we are in control of our thoughts. And the more that we practice meditation, the more that we realize that we can redirect or not interact with a thought, which gives us a lot of power in our lives.
Yeah.
And again, like, I love how we're talking about the sound healing, but ultimately being able to drop into that with small amounts of time.
Yeah.
And that it's not something that feels overwhelming, that it's something that you can do that's very simple. And I joked with my clients this week. I kind of was issuing the first challenge of meditation and just saying, okay, there are 3 minutes, and I'm asking you to do this daily, and preferably morning and night. But if you can only do one, do morning. And then I made this reference or this joke to a comedian who is named Brian Regan, and he makes a joke about Pop-Tarts. He says that there are actually instructions on a Pop-Tart package, and he has the whole crowd like in uproar over talking about, you have the option to either toast your Pop-Tart or to microwave your Pop-Tart. And if you don't have time to toast your Pop-Tart, we might need to talk about your time management. And it's hilarious. You know what I mean? But I think that when we bring that reality to the intention that we're setting forth with our day, knowing that sound can tune us, knowing that sound can create comfort and a safe place, and it can create something that happens within our mind where we have the ability to choose thoughts. It has so much power to create, the stability when we are experiencing chaos. And I think that our world is set up in a way where, I like to refer to crabs in the bucket, where when crabs, you don't need a lid if you have more than one crab in a bucket, right? Because one crab will start to climb up the side of a bucket, and another crab, thinking that it's trying to save itself, will pull the other crab down. And that is a little bit of how our world is set up, is surrounding with like just that negativity where we're continually getting pulled down, and we have the option to step out of that when we step into going inside and within.
Yeah, and the world is increasingly forcing us to look at what needs to be healed.
Yeah. Unless we don't, and then we become diseased, right? That's where we come with dis-ease, diseased. And no matter if that's in your heart or in your physical body or in your mind, it happens. Yeah. Yeah, I love it. So can you answer the question of why can I drop so quickly with this device into a space that brings incredible feelings in the heart and expands my heart versus other forms of meditation?
Yeah, there's two things. One is that harmonic series that we were talking about. So there are these right relationships between the tones. That's one aspect. So we took quite a bit of time talking about 1, 2, 3, and 1 to 1, 2 to 1, 3 to 2. So those relationships are from source, of source. They're everywhere, and when we hear them, we hear, or we recognize. We resonate to that because that we're of that. So we drop into a resonant state with something that is true. And if you think about the cognitive dissonance when you're being lied to versus when someone is truthful
Mm-hmm.
with you, there's no mistaking what happens in the body with the truth and with a lie. So that's one reason. The other is the reference tuning of the system itself. That is, we have to pick some particular frequency for, let's say, the middle C in any instrument, and then from that middle C, we build the octave and we build the perfect fifth and the other intervals from the harmonic series. So in the Now speakers, the reference is a reference of one, or a reference of oneness, or we could say it's a reference of unity. And when I made this, it was this is kind of like a channeled, I have to say this is like a channeled device. It's a channeled, it's more like a being. It feels more like a being to me, these speakers, than it does a product. Mm-hmm. And it's not something that I thought of.
Right. It's inspiration and direction, and feeling compelled. And
exactly. Yeah. And I happen to have a history of making audio products, so that I knew how to do that, what we call reduction to practice. So it's an inspired idea that feels more like a being than a product. And one of the inspired thoughts was, well, if you're going to make an audio thing that you want to help people heal with or experience unity or oneness, why don't we just say, let's base it on one. It's a vibrating, it creates vibrations, and these vibrations have to start somewhere. So let's just say, let us say the number one, or one vibration per second, since we're talking about sound. Let's just start there. And then by using only the octave from the harmonic series and the perfect fifth, we can arrive at a particular tuning. So I'll just rattle this off. You start at one, and then the octave. Remember, the octave is a factor of two. It's like something vibrates twice as fast. So that means 1, 2, 4, 8, 16, 32, 64, 128, 256, 512. Now, the Now tone therapy speakers are a C, middle C of 256. And then by perfect fifth transposition, we end up with an A at 432. So when you hear this and your parasympathetic system drops right into it, you're dropping into something that is very friendly with source in both its absolute pitch reference and its relative, that is the relationship. You're getting both a wonderful reference tuning and an impeccably pure and true intervallic relationship to drop into. And when the ears hear this, the body goes, whoa, I want to be there. Yeah, that's why it works so fast.
That's beautiful.
Yeah, and then there's also like these, and you've heard this, these pulsations that happen too. There's like the whoa thing that happen. Yeah. Well, what that does, those pulsations happen generally about between 1 and 8 cycles per second. 1 pulse per second, or 2 pulses, or 4 or 8 pulses per second. These pulses are in the frequency range, that is the repetition rate, the number of times per second, that are correlated with brainwave patterns that have been observed in the brains of experienced meditators. So these pulsations help to set up a driving frequency that the brain interprets as theta range or alpha range states that are consistent with the self-reported subjective feelings of open monitoring meditation. So the speakers, the pulsing, whoa, 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 crossing over, that helps the brain say, oh yeah, I feel I like that when I'm at the beach, or I feel like that when I'm drifting just before I drift off to sleep. My brain likes to do that. So we're setting up something that the brain can resonate to.
Yeah.
So
and
you've got,
that's all healing. That's all space of, right?
Yeah.
It's amazing.
Yeah, so you've got something that I like to think of as being source tuned, that is A432 or C256, and then it also carries a lot of harmonic series energy. Then there's these low frequency pulsations. All of this comes together. Oh, and the sounds themselves are pure sine wave tones. The sounds themselves do not have any overtones. The sounds themselves are very, very simple, pure tones that don't have any clashing harmonics, as multiple tones are played at the same time. And this system introduces randomness. When you turn this on, you will never hear the same sequence twice. Each speaker,
like ever.
Ever. Here's why. Each speaker has a fairly large number of pre-recorded, I was describing these pre-recorded tone sequences, about 3 minutes long. Each speaker has a lot of those in them. Each time each speaker is turned on, one of those tone sequences is chosen at random. And then when you turn on the second speaker, sometime after the first speaker, you are introducing a random time gap. You could turn them on at the same time. You could turn the second one on a second later, 2 seconds, 3 seconds, 5 seconds, whatever. So you're creating, every time you turn it on, it's not exactly the same distance, temporal distance between the offset between the first speaker and the second speaker. So you having conscious intention to pick up the speakers at some moment in time, and there's randomness.
Yeah, I like to think about that as far as like the present moment and dropping in what's happening in the present.
Exactly. And then you're in the present moment, and you're allowing the present moment to occur. So we have a system here that is somewhat familiar. It's always going to be pure sine wave tones, these pure bell-like tones. That's familiar. These are nice sounding tones. They're pleasant. They're always going to be that way. So that's comforting, because that's consistency. There's always going to be a harmonic relationship between them, and we know that we've been talking about right relationships, so that feels good. It's I can't prove this, but I believe it's source tuned by placing the C at 256, which puts the A at 432. All of this comes together to create something that is safe, somewhat familiar from session to session, but always different. It's almost oxymoronic that it could be the same but different. And this is like life. Go outside on any beautiful fall day. It has the characteristics of a beautiful fall day, but it has a unique perfume, encounters you have that make that day unique, that moment unique from any other moment and day, even though the macro experience is familiar. So,
and that right there, that awareness, is everything.
Oh, which awareness?
The awareness of that moment, that day, and the difference inside of it. That tuning into like right now, that present is beautiful. It's just amazing. And it's the attention that we're placing, it's the attention. And it's like what we're talking about in the entire episode. Your awareness of sound helps us step into an awareness of sound by listening to the things that you're explaining to us. And then we then go through our lives differently because we've dropped in and paid attention to being aware of sounds. It's
that's simple.
It's a gift that you have that you're allowing us to drop into. Everybody has different gifts.
Yeah.
And when we stop and pay attention to someone's gift, then we carry that now with us. You know?
Yeah, and it also helps. It took me a long time to realize that it was so easy for me. Like we often neglect our gifts, right? It's like because we're striving to be other. And I've been listening to this experience that it was a foghorn experience when I was up in New Hampshire when I was about 5. So that's really what set my course, the sound of the foghorns. And then listening and recording and making audio products for decades. But it's only really much more recently that I realized that this is a gift that I received, and I can give and I can extend this gift and be solid in my awareness of what has been gifted to me that I'm able to continue giving.
And I think too, by you being aware of that, I think every listener can tune into evidences that have happened throughout their life to produce and help them cultivate their gift.
Exactly.
And what their offering is to help other people be aware of.
Yeah, because it's so rich. I mean, look at all of us. And population growth is not a problem. Population growth is a solution.
Yeah. It's a beautiful symphony when we all play our notes, when we all, respond and step up to what's there for us. Yeah. It's amazing. Yeah. It's so great. Oh my, this is such a rich and glorious and beautiful, and the awareness of the product. And then there's also the app that for me, when I listen to, there's a live stream that has been that your company has created, and that you and that's interesting to me too, because it's a continuous stream that everybody can be listening to at the same time.
Yeah.
But I'll tell you that for me, the most beautiful thing about the app. Okay, so the most beautiful thing for me about the speakers is the simplicity, the on button, it's done. That's all it is. And then there's also vibration when you're holding it in your hands.
Yeah.
That is so valuable. And then as far as the app, when you place the earbuds in your ears, the sound vibrates in different the right earbud or the left earbud, and I can hear or feel the sound at different places in my head, which then takes the thinking. It's easier for me to sit with myself, or for me, I guess, to teach people to sit with themselves as they're paying attention to where is that sound resonating. And like we started with in the very beginning of our entire conversation, when we are truly listening to something, to a sound, we are not thinking.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, glorious, everyone, you have to check it out and be aware of that this is a resource that's available that can help you walk through life in all the ways that we've discussed today.
Yeah, literally. Just put it on your earbuds, headphones, or whatever, and walk around. It changes the world.
Yeah.
Oh, wow. It's I love to go out for a walk sometimes. There's a particular type of headphone technology called vibration bone conduction. So your ear canal remains open, and then it's a little vibration transducer that sits on a headband. The vibration transducer sits forward of your ear canal, and then the sound is conducted through that bone right there. So you hear your natural hearing of the world is not impeded at all, but the tones are laid onto the world as a organizing, chaos reducing force. Amazing.
Okay.
Yeah,
Okay,
we don't
so
make we don't
teach
make
us
those
that.
things.
Where do we get that? We'll have to put
we'll make we can put a link in the show notes.
Yeah.
And it's those bone conduction, and they're not expensive. Just we'll come up with the link. But on Amazon, you can just do a search for bone, BONE, bone conduction headphones.
Okay, so I'll put the link there in the show notes for whatever the recommendation is for those. And then are you saying that we listen to the Solu app while we're using that headband?
Yeah. Okay. And then go out for a walk. Another way to do it is to use, instead of using earbuds, which earbuds, especially noise canceling earbuds, will reduce the sound around you. And then because they fit tightly in your ear canal, they block a lot of outside sound. Some people like to have that experience of reducing the stimulus from the world. But if you use an old fashioned pair of foam earmuff type headphones, they're called, in the studio language, they're called open ear or open back. It allows more of the sound of the world to come to you. In recording studios, if musicians are doing the tracking, they're playing live together, and they may have headphones on to hear each other or hear the room, hear the drummer. So you're looking for something that's called an open ear or open back rather than closed ear, closed back. And those kind of headphones, and they don't have to be expensive because these pure tones sound good on anything. I'm wearing some right now. They're just a very simple foam ear muff, and I can hear the sounds around me.
Interesting.
Yeah, and so bone conduction is one way to hear both the tones and the real world, the sounds of the real world, or open back, open ear headphones. Yeah. As opposed to earbuds. The earbud experience using, the Apple earbuds, or a noise conduction earbuds. I use those on planes. They're great on the subway. Oh, it's awesome to really take down that really strong transit noise sound. Earbuds will give more isolation to the real world. But I think what we're asked to do is to accept. We're in a time now of accepting what is, we're called to be in acceptance and then transmute. So learning how to hear the real world, allow it, accept it, and then hearing the tones at the same time help do that. Now, if you're at home, you can use, any Bluetooth speaker. You could listen to the tone. It's called Tone Stream. You could listen to the Tone Stream over your speaker, and it's great in the car. Works in the car on your phone. You get it if you have a cellular connection. You can have the Tone Stream in a modern car where often you can Bluetooth right into the sound system of the car. You can have the tones in your car as well. So it's a nice way to layer. So listeners just want to be conscious of the fact that they can make a choice to either have the tones accompany the acoustic signature of the world they're experiencing, or have the tones be a bit of a replacement for what's happening. And and both are valid. Yeah. And you can make an intentional choice about how you want to listen.
Yeah. Beautiful resources all around us, and lots of options. But I think that the most important thing is just knowing how much value there is in going within and how sound can assist that.
That's a great summary.
Yeah. So
really
thank you so much for sharing with us all that you are up to and that you have been exposed to in this world so that we benefit as well.
Yeah. Thank you for being there and doing the work that you're doing and bringing folks in to have these kind of conversations. Gosh, it feels really great because I was really working in isolation for a long time, and I didn't think what I was doing really had value to others beyond myself. But what an isolated thought that is. That am I so different that someone else wouldn't like to be in my head having my experience? No, of course not. Everybody would like to have each other's experiences.
Yeah, and that's very reassuring for everybody who is working on whatever it is that they're working on, because
yes,
we definitely go through streams of doubt and being able to see, it's like even with the podcast, when I first started, there wasn't that many people listening. And now people are going back to listen to what I was creating when I may have had similar thoughts. It's just literally amazing what we are cultivating and how every moment actually does matter, and how it's, contributing to the tapestry of everything that you really are.
Yeah.
It's gorgeous. Yeah.
And thank you for noticing that.
Yes.
Great to be here.
Fantastic. Yes. Thank you for being here and for all of your imparting wisdom. So great.
Wonderful to be here. Thank you so much.
You're welcome. Isn't he a gift? Oh, I just loved that interview with Michael and the realization of how much beauty we have to contribute to each other's lives. I hope that through that interview, you are able to see that through sound, you have more power than you think you do. Just a reminder, if you want to pick up the speakers, then you can click on the link in the show notes. And again, put in the code Misha and you'll get 10% off. And you can also check out the app. It's called Solu, and you can download that and access the live stream of the sounds at any time that you want. If you found this episode enriching, helpful, or enlightening, I would really appreciate it if you will share it with someone that you think could use the ideas around processing in life, especially how valuable it is that we can process with sound in very simple ways. If you have any questions, insights, breakthroughs, or anything that you want to share, you can always reach out to me at hello@myfriendmisha.com or DM me on Instagram at myfriendmisha. It's a complete pleasure to share this space with you, and I love hearing from you. Thank you so much for being supportive and amazing listeners. And I'm just grateful for that privilege to walk through your journey with you today. And I want to leave you with this quote, a quote from Edgar Cayce that says, "Sound will be the medicine of the future." Here is a sample of a session like you were sitting down with these speakers that Michael created. And you know what? He created this particular one that you're going to hear for our audience. So I feel like it adds more intention and more energy, right, behind the tones you're about to hear. So if you can, just pause for a little bit and take some breaths, sit with yourself, and listen to these sounds. Until next time, my friend.